Howdy folks, Nathan here with a 2024 Mercedes-Benz EQS 450 4MATIC SUV. It's all electric, and we're going to talk about the styling in a little bit, but I wanted to say this just in. We just got our hands on one of these. Now, we've driven these before, and they can come in a six-person version. She might come in the six-person. Who knows? Maybe you get a six-wheel drive at some point in time. That'd be very German. No, right now, all-wheel drive. You can get rear-wheel drive only in the base model, which we don't have. And this one is essentially $124,000. And the reason why I'm giving you the price so early is so you understand where this car lives, which is in the high territory, competing with, let's say, a Tesla Model X fully loaded. And even then, that vehicle has better range and better performance. However, I'm going to try to convince you that this is the better car to own. Now, with that being said, shall we take a tour? Come with me. First things first. Yes. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to show you this. Let me show you this. So, camera guy, check this out. Now, I take notes. I know, surprise, considering the fact that you guys think I'm incapable of actually writing. I actually am. Here. So every once in a while, I will draw a quick little thing to indicate what vehicle I'm looking at for wheelbase height and stuff like that, so I know the information. So in this case, it has a 126-inch wheelbase, basically, and it's 201.8 inches of overall length. But the reason I showed you that picture is I drew a blob. That's a blob, bro. Now, I'm not saying I'm a great artist, but I pretty much captured the essence of this vehicle. And this is the biggest problem. Despite the fact that it has amazing tech, despite the fact that it has pretty good range, very good capacity, one of the smoothest vehicles driving in its class, and an interior that'll knock you out, the exterior, I just can't. Let's talk about, first of all, the main things about it. Now, under the skin, we are talking about a vehicle that has a 107.8 kilowatt hour battery. I don't think that's net, but still a pretty good sized battery. 285 mile range with that. Now you can get better range if you get the rear drive version of this, which essentially is the base model, and that will give you, I believe, over 300 miles, but still all-wheel drive a car this big, it's big. It has a 200 kilowatt hour charger. Unfortunately, it's located in the back. I wish it was in the front. You have such a bulbous nose, you would think that this would be better up there. But, you know, still, so you have to back up in some cases in order to, in order to get power. Here's the key fob, by the way, don't worry about that. Key fob's cool. I believe. There it goes. So you have to have it unlocked. That's my fault, not theirs. It does have fast charging. And according to Mercedes, fast charger, you can go from 10 to 80%, which is really what you want, 80%, in about 31 minutes. Of course, the Germans, 31 minutes, right? It's okay. It's okay. It's not the best. 200 kilowatts is good. Some of their other vehicles were like 170. Nowadays, that's not very competitive. Could be worse, I suppose. Let me see here if this will close when I do that. Door handles will, but I guess this, do I do that? Do I do that? Oh, yep. You help it along. That's how you do it. I've never had to charge one of these, surprisingly. Okay, so let's talk about those door handles, because bam! Gee, I wonder who they got that from. I don't mind that so much, though. I get it. It's a little bit of an aerodynamic gimmick. When these fold flat, it makes more sense for them to be aero. Okay. Now, I'm not going to talk about the interior quite yet, because I wanted to show you one other issue I have, which is another German thing, making things that are uncomplicated more complicated. And it has to do with switchgear. Just keep this in mind, this little thing right here. The Germans are known, Mercedes is known for making some of the best seats in the world, I think, and the best seat controllers. I love the fact that they're on the door in most Mercedes-Benz vehicles, and I love the fact that they're so easy to use. However, instead of it being a regular switch where when you move it around, it actually physically moves, these don't move. We've talked about this before. These are touch sensitive. So you're touching it and it moves. But I don't understand the need for that when they've had a system for years that you could feel. Now here's the reason why it's a big deal to me. Because as you're driving or moving around and you don't want to have to look at controls, you want to have that feedback of it moving so you know you've actually actuated it. That's one of my issues. There's more inside and we'll get to that in a minute. But let's talk about the trunk because it's a surprising story. And here's the story. First of all, if you want to open it without the key, giant emblem. That might be one of the nicest trunk designs I've seen in an SUV. Now, what you're going to notice when I lift this up, because there is something underneath here, is that there's sort of a two-section cargo area here. And the reason why is because you can get an optional third row seat. It is tiny. And we've covered it before. There we go. So you got that right there on the first section, right? And then if you pull up on it, I think I can do that. Sorry, there's a carpet there. There we go. So there's more cargo there. Now, if that cargo area wasn't being used, you could, in theory, put in little tiny folding seats. As such, this thing can hold more people, but you lose cargo space. So have a look in there because, once again, really well trimmed. And the overall cargo space in this thing is 31 cubic feet behind the second row. But if you fold the seats down, it's 74.2 cubic feet of cargo space. That is pretty impressive. All right, now we're going to try something a little bit different this time. This seat is currently not ready for me. The guy who was driving it before is Lilliputian in size. I think he's like 5'10". Anyway, so I'm going to get in here. Actually, how did it do that? Okay, I think it changes position. Once I close the door, I think it's going to reassume that he's here. Let's see what happens. No, it didn't. Okay. Embarrassing. There we go. That's the start-stop button. Who drives like this? Oh my God, he has to look underneath the steering wheel to see the highway. Okay, so here we are. I'm laying on my back as if I'm at a doctor's office. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to now make me comfortable. So first thing I'm going to do is touch this. Now remember, these don't move. There's the seat. A little bit of a delay. Then I need to move the seat back, so I did this and it went down, and then I have to come over here and do that to move it back because I have legs. Okay. So rather than this actually moving, I have to kind of glance at it rather than feeling the switches move. And that is really a big issue that I have. Now I know some of you guys who are Mercedes fans are going to start yelling at me and going, oh, you're nitpicking. No, I'm really not. It's an important thing to have switchgear that is easy to use. Now, granted, if this were my vehicle and I had a preset, oh, look at that, there are presets here. Then there'd be a preset for me, my wife, a couple mistresses, and everything else. That would be right here, Mercedes owners. That would be right here. But I don't have that. I do, it's right there, but I don't have, 1, 2, 3. I guess that's enough. Okay, so there's 3 settings here. Okay, and then, here's the crazy part. Here's where I do my ventilated seating. Right there. And this whole thing is a touch screen, kind of, right? So there's no independent buttons, and that kind of gets me because it's like, this is a Mercedes, and that's a cheap kind of Volkswagen-y thing. Okay, let's drop the steering wheel down to a height where I can actually use it. Okay. So essentially the seating position is just about where I want it to be, and now things improve. Now things get much, much better because these seats are remarkably comfortable. I've got this little pillowy thing back here, which is great for the neck sweat. It might be a joke that the Germans did, like, haha, Americans, the fat Batus, they have the neck sweat. But I don't mind it because it is really comfortable. Okay, so let's talk about the hyper screen. Now, something you might notice, the way they designed this whole thing here is kind of reminiscent of the way the front end looks. So perhaps that's part of it. And what gets me just absolutely nuts is the fact that I love most of this interior. This wood here with the inlaid metal lines, I mean, it looks like it comes off a yacht or something. It's just amazing to look at. The actuation is amazing. It's so good. These components, everything here is so solid and so rich feeling. It suddenly makes the price less of a question, right? And also, this interior, in terms of its physical design, in terms of what you're touching, are far superior to Tesla. And also, recently, the Acura ZDX, that one doesn't feel as expensive as this. The BMW, we'll get to that in a minute. The iX, that definitely competes directly with this one. But that one's a little bit more performance, and this one's a little bit more luxury. Okay, now speaking of that, what you're really looking at here, this hyper screen, isn't one screen. This is 3 screens, okay? I think it's 17.3 inches right here. This in itself is like, oh, it's a big screen. But then you've got these other 2 screens. This is over 12 inches for the passenger, too. And I believe, yeah, there we go. So you can put in your profile, and you can do things there while you're bored on the highway, I suppose. This screen has multiple uses, very clear, and what you're technically doing is you're touching a screen under a certain type of glass that actually registers your movement, okay? And that to me is cool, but it's also a little unnecessary because at the end of the day, it's really not one screen. Okay, that complaint aside, it's not even a complaint really. We do have this. So we recently were in a BMW that had a similar type of thing where you could put in different modes here. Off-road. What does that mean? Well, among other things, what it means is that it's lifting the vehicle. As we're sitting here, I'm being propelled off the ground at rapid rate. I mean, lifted. And I believe it gives over 3 inches, possibly 4, of overall ground clearance. And we've tested these off-road. We have friends who've tested these off-road, and they actually function okay. I mean, aside from the tires are just not meant for it. But that's one of the really big differences between this and, say, a Tesla. The Model X does not do well off-road. It is really just for the streets, right? This can handle mild off-roading. If you really were stuck, or if you wanted to go to a campsite, one that's not too far away, this would actually do the job. Although I can't imagine too many people who would buy this would go to a campsite, but they would go to a ski lodge. And some of those ski lodges, those types of things, are actually on rutted roads or even possibly on a dirt road. And then you mix that with snow, suddenly having extra ground clearance is awesome. Do you want to see what I mean? Hop on out. Let's take a look-see, because you're going to see that it's higher now. And I'm going to lower it in just a second. So have a look at the ground clearance. Aha! Look at that. So you can clearly see that it's been lifted a bit. And this extra ground clearance may seem, not much to the regular person, but just getting out of trouble, this helps. Now, I wanted to show you guys something while you're out there. What I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to drop it back down to its regular ride height. And while I do that, I'm going to cock the steering wheel, yes, I said that, to the right. And you're going to see something fascinating. You're going to see 10 degrees of rear steering action. That's right, baby, because it has 4-wheel steering, and 4-wheel steering is something awesome. Now, I'm opening the window so the camera ninja can actually hear what I'm saying. I'm going to my mode, and I'm going to go to Eco, and it should be lowering as I go. And now, watch carefully. I'm turning the wheel all the way to the right. There we go. And I'm going to go into drive. And here I go. Oh my goodness gracious, a vehicle so long, turning so quickly, or more importantly, so tightly. Look at that rear, man. 10 degrees. It is really useful for a vehicle of this size to be able to maneuver around a parking lot as if you're driving something much, much smaller. I mean, like a tiny compact car. That is a ridiculous turning radius. Now here's the cool part. Okay, I'm going to straighten out the wheels, straightened out. Now I'm going to go into reverse. I'm in reverse. Here we go. Ha-ha! And it's got the neat little boop, boop, which I guess you can kind of hear from outside the vehicle, but it's, it's not that loud. It's not that intrusive. Isn't that cool? I love that. Now, you may be thinking, okay, so it's got four-wheel steering, so do other vehicles. You're absolutely right. However, Mercedes has done a really good job incorporating it into a vehicle and making it something you can use every day. And after a couple uses, you drive it a few times, you forget all about it. Now, speaking of driving, hop on in. Let's take it for a real quick spin. Now, have a look at that screen once again, because I'm going to be playing with it. And I wanted to discuss a couple things. Now, first of all, this vehicle has a combined 355 horsepower, so let's go to dynamic screen. There's comfort, there's sport, and there's individual. Now, I was going to program it to Roman's individual thing, but there's no hair care products in the vehicle to help it run. So, we're going to go to sport, and I'm going to just take it for a light run, and then we're going to switch it from sport to something else as we drive, okay? By the way, look at this. I love it. Everything in here works like that. Oh, watch your elbow. There's storage in here, and there's two USB-Cs right here, by the way. Very useful. And look how deep that is. According to certain German representatives that we dealt with, Americans eat way too much food, but that can hold 6 Whoppers. I'm just saying. Entschuldigung, wie bitte. Okay, that means excuse me. So you do have paddle shifters here. They are for different types of brake management. Essentially what you're doing is you're having more or less resistance put on the vehicle. So here we go. Look at this right here. It's going to say no recuperation, normal recuperation, and strong recuperation. That's as far as it goes. What it means is that when I let off the accelerator, the vehicle will slow itself down much quicker, and that's good for the battery because it puts more power back into the battery. It also means that you can do pretty much one pedal driving. There's an old man staring at us outside saying, you damn kids in your overpriced German cars. Now, it's not entirely one foot or one pedal driving, by the way. But we're in sport now, so I'm just going to upset the old man and do light acceleration. So here we go. Let me just double check and make sure I'm sport. So there's dynamic, individual, sport. Okay, and they say not with roof load. Interpret that any way you want. There it goes. So it doesn't have a problem getting up and going, but it is nowhere near as dramatic as even the regular Tesla Model X. It goes really quick. I believe with this setup, 0 to 60 is in the 4-second zone. No, I believe it's about 5 seconds actually. I think it's like almost exactly 5 seconds. But that's really fast for a car that weighs as much as a planet. And I call it a car because that's really what it's based on. It has all the same components pretty much underneath as its brother, the non-SUV. So essentially like an S-Class version of this, which is still all electric. Still has the 4-wheel steering. I think the only thing it doesn't have aside from all of this cargo capacity is it doesn't have an off-road mode. Now, speaking of modes, let's go to, there we go. We're in comfort mode now. Now, this does have fully active suspension system as well, and it changes the way everything reacts, and the car really does go into a very mellow overall feel. The drive, and I've said this before about other Mercedes electric vehicles, the driving experience is remarkably good. This is the big difference between this vehicle and, say, a BMW iX, and they directly compete. The big BMW is extremely powerful, handles extremely well. It is probably the best driving large electric SUV in its class. Some people might argue the Rivian or something like that. No, that's a little bit more of an off-roady thing. The BMW really is something that they carefully tune to handle very well on these types of roads and to, have an aggressive set of parameters that it's following. As such, it is a driver. But it ain't a looker. And just as importantly, it's not very luxurious. Yeah, it's got a nice interior and it drives fine, it's great. But this is a little bit nicer. It's quieter, it's remarkably quiet, and it is built to be a luxury SUV. So this is basically a family hauler that has pretty decent range for people who do not need a serious off-roader, but might have to do some light off-roading. I think that old man was peeing in the bushes as we drove by. So in case he was, that's all right. That's completely fine. We'll get his address and phone number later to those of you who are interested. Okay, so final thing, we're gonna park this. And I already told you the price, but I wanted to explain another minor issue and also give you my surprise verdict, right? So here we go. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna throw the cameraman out. I might actually come to a full complete stop without throwing him out. Decided to be nice for once in my life. Yeah. All right. Now I have here the sticker. This is $121,765. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for what could be something about half the price from a lot of other competitors. You're in the $60,000 and $70,000 zone if you don't need a third row SUV, or if you get something like a Kia. But you're not getting a Kia, right? Now, by the way, the air of this thing is going out, so it's lowering. As such, it's massaging my tush. This is a way that they get you to say this is a really good vehicle. I'm kidding. Although, thank you, that did help. I will say this. I cannot think of a 3-row electric SUV that drives better than this. I can't. There are faster ones, for sure. There are ones that get better range. There are faster charging ones. There are less expensive ones. But this is the best driver of all of them. It's a remarkably capable all-around vehicle that has a very good personality. I know people said that about prom dates. Anyway, so is it worth it? Maybe. I think that it's just a good vehicle under the skin. And if you can get past that, you'll be impressed. Now, by the way, there's no front trunk, frunk, or anything like that. You don't need it because there's gobs of space in this thing. But it would be nice if they did that. If I lifted this hood, which is difficult to do, but there is a way to do it, you just see a bunch of wires and stuff like that all over the place. Yeah. Anyway, bottom line, I think BMW has something to worry about. I think Tesla has something to worry about. But until Mercedes-Benz gets their design in hand, they don't have to worry that much. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you later.